Welcome everyone to the View from the Clipper podcast. I'm your host, James Warner, as always, joined by my co-host Josh Sexton. Josh, how are you doing this evening?
Doing well. Just glad it's Friday. It's been a frantic week in my personal life, so I'm happy to sit here with you, James, chat Clippers, talk about an unbeaten week. Of course, me and you kind of like I like to think gave a bit of a prelude to this week. Like we
Yeah.
weren't too down on the Clippers for what happened last week in the last episode. Sort of expected them to go, three undefeated. I think we both predicted that maybe in the last episode. So yeah, feeling good about where the Clippers are at right now. Obviously back to relative full health aside from the guys who are of course sort of the longer term injuries. So yeah, feeling good about that too. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing well. I know I came on the pod last week and started it sort of to apologize to everyone for I felt like I had caused the bad run
You
because
need to do
obviously
the
the
you need to do the
previous
Conor
week,
McGregor now. Like I'd like to apologize to absolutely nobody.
absolutely no one. And I know, and I should have that kind of confidence and you know what, I'm going forward. I'm not going to care about what the recent predictions were. I'm not going to feel guilty about it, Josh, because last week I said that we'd go 2-1. From memory, I think even you said we'd go 3-0, and so you hit the nail on the head there if that's what you said. Because yeah, like you said, the Clippers went 3-0 over the last week, and I think because I'd got the predictions from the following week so wrong, and obviously the Clippers had just a terrible week where obviously lost four games, won one, and it wasn't it, it wasn't sort of the manner of those the opponents really. It was just down to the fact that they had injuries, and it was just a bit all over the place and a bit of a mess. So was a bit concerned coming into this week. I had sort of had that in the back of my mind, but I knew fully well like the Clippers have been good. This is just a small blip. Like you go back 20 games, the Clippers have been playing some fantastic basketball. They've been on a really great streak. So I just felt that that was a short-term dip, but I should have been more confident, Josh. And yeah, I'm a bit disappointed at myself for that, for not going 3-0 because yeah, that Raptors game that we had the other night was a big win. And obviously just to highlight to everyone over the last week, Clippers played the Mavs where they got an overtime win, 138. Clippers 131. Mavericks, they went then played the Toronto Raptors. Sorry, the Milwaukee Bucks at home, where again just an absolute domination,
Yeah.
as we've seen before with other games at Intuit Dome, and then finishing off that three-game stretch at home to the Toronto Raptors, where again just another dominant performance where they saw 119-94 win. And I'm happy to start at the top because I think the Mavs was the one game that I probably wasn't concerned too much about. And I think we both agreed like the Mavs clearly one of the worst teams in the league. And if you're not gonna win that one, you know, uh, it could get really bad and quite ugly for the Clippers. And unfortunately, it was a really tight one, as I mentioned, overtime win over the Dallas Mavericks, just a 7 point game win. And it was a really tight one. I'm not sure how much you caught this one, Josh, but Clippers were really down in sort of the first half of this game. The Mavs up by 12 at one stage. And as I mentioned, the Clippers have had some injury struggles, but in this one, had Kawhi Leonard back, dropping 34 points. Also had Darius Garland exploding for his season high points. Obviously, the game did go to overtime, 41 points. He dropped 8 3 pointers, which is his season best. Just looking in great form. And I think on an individual performance basis, like I think there were Clipper players who really performed well, but I think as a unit, there was definite struggles in this game. I think defensively, really, really struggled, and just not a great look for the Clippers to be able to take this one into overtime against one of the worst teams in the league. And something that really I wanted to highlight before obviously come to you, Josh, on this game is that the field goal attempts in this one was kind of crazy. And I think kind of signaled why it was such a struggle for the Clippers. They just couldn't slow the Mavs down. In terms of field goal attempts, Dallas 102 field goal attempts in this game, Clippers just 90. And the stat that really pointed out sort of the flaws, I think particularly on the defensive end, In terms of the bigs, and we can get onto this as well as a topic because the Mavs had 17 offensive rebounds, and I think the Clippers only had six, which is alarming.
Yeah.
Um, and six of those coming from the D Dallas Mavericks big man in Daniel Gafford. So yeah, a real struggle on the defensive end, particularly at defending the rim. What were your thoughts on this performance, Josh? Because it definitely wasn't great to obviously come off four losses in five games to then have this sort of almost slippage against the Dallas Mavericks, which probably would have been the worst of the lot considering who was available for this game.
Yeah, I'd probably say like the Bucks I'd maybe class as the one that I'd be looking at as like worse than the Mavericks, only because like
Yeah,
what you've got to remember is like even though it was a bit of a kind of like between two timelines team now, like I think you saw in this one how like massively impressive Cooper Flag is. Like Cooper Flag is has just shown this season that he is like a genuinely a generational talent. This draft class looks better with every single game that passes, as in the last year's draft class, I should say, rather than the one that's upcoming, because Cooper Flag is so impressive. There's a chance he might even get pipped to Rookie of the Year by Con Canepa on Charlotte, who has just like been beyond comprehension how incredible he's been. Both guys obviously coming from Duke, which is like a funny little sort of college basketball side note to this. So I think you saw in this
yeah,
game the block from Cooper Flag on Kawhi. I was like, Jesus, like how high up he got in the air, the amount of like just vim on that block was crazy. But then there's loads of these guys, like I guess Max Christie is the other one. Ryan Nemhard, maybe you could throw him. That was kind of on the Cooper Flag timeline, but the rest of the guys are guys who've like been on the Dallas Mavericks for a little while now. Like Najee Marshall is probably like the Derrick Jones Jr. replacement, but then PJ Washington has been a Clipper killer in the past. Daniel Gafford has had great games against the Clippers in playoff series and things in the past, and as you say, was just dominated in this one. But one of the things like the overwhelming things I took from it, um, almost like a realization, I guess, and we're doing a lot of like, me and you kind of analyze games and try and sort of pin how games make a like a wider point about the season. And it just kind of dawned on me after the Dallas Mavericks game. I was like, I think I might be judging this Clippers team wrong, because what we saw from the Clippers last year was that they were a like an above average team in terms of like being well over 500, and if you want to kind of class 500 as the average. This season they kind of been teetering around that. Obviously they were way worse than that for a while, but teetering around 500 now, like dropping a game or two below, going a game or two above, so they're about average. But if you look at like the advanced stats, the offensive rating is top 10, just about 10th,
yeah,
and the defense is below average, and that's kind of where like I think I'm still judging this Clippers team a little bit as if they are the really good Clippers team who were one of the best defenses in the NBA, because last season it was actually the offense more often than not that let the Clippers down. This season it's been very much that the offense has been there, and I think that's been the case from the start because of Kawhi Leonard and James Harden, really, and it's been everything else that's been lacking in terms of the supporting cast, in terms of the defensive intensity. Then you trade away Ivica Zubac, who I think is just the defensive fulcrum of this side, and it's hard for me to imagine that Daniel Gafford gets six offensive rebounds if Ivica Zubac is matching or
yeah,
playing more minutes than Daniel Gafford if he's playing the 34 that Brook Lopez plays. And I'm kind of trying to stay away from like over analyzing Brook Lopez now, because like I don't want it to seem like I'm just like personally attacking him all the time, but I just think the starting center spot is the weak spot for the Clippers, and it's kind of the thing that like I keep arriving back at, really, is the Clippers are now a below average defense. To my mind, that's because they had a horrible start to the season on that end, where even Zubac was below par for sort of his standards, and they go on the incredible run, which of Zubac is a huge part of, and the defense starts to really improve. But then we trade away Zubac, and now we're kind of in a spot where the Clippers are, I guess, inconsistent in a way, and they're inconsistent in a very explicable way, because they're figuring things out. Because the three ball is showing like massive variance. The 50% on 42 threes in this game, which is incredible, but it's because Darius Garland is 8 of 12 from the 3-point line. It's only Kawhi Leonard who is like otherwise pretty efficient. Oh, Derrick Jones Jr. 60%, and Nicholas Batum as well. But in terms of the starters, Brook Lopez 33%, which is about where you expect him to be. John Collins below where you expect him to be at 20%. Chris Dunn and Jordan Miller only take one, and I'm a little bit concerned about Jordan Miller's three ball all of a sudden. Like the more he kind of grows in I guess like stature almost for this Clippers team, or like his responsibilities grow. Is probably the better phrase for this. I'm definitely concerned a little bit about his ability to shoot the three. Um, but in like this game kind of summed the Clippers up for me, where like I think they are obviously better than a Dallas Mavericks team. There's still really good things about this Dallas Mavericks team. The Clippers are still going to find themselves in challenging situations, kind of whether they play a good team or not. But the things that are going to show up are going to be like a little bit of inconsistency from three, unless Darius Garland goes off, or unless Kawhi has like an uber efficient game from there. The defensive end, as you say, is going to be some major slippage there, and particularly in terms of like how bigs are going to be able to crash the glass and even just have an offensive impact against us, really. While I understand that you're like, this would have been a bad one, kind of because of where the Dallas Mavericks are, like, I don't know. I think I just came away from this a little bit more like reflective in the sense
Yeah,
of this game is just kind of who the Clippers are. So like I wouldn't have thought it was like one of the bad ones of the week. Like whereas like I think Milwaukee are an absolute like basket case. They are a dumpster fire even. So like losing that one,
yeah,
I'd have been like, okay, there's no excuse to lose to Milwaukee. Whereas this one, like even going into overtime, I was kind of like, phew, a little bit. Like yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. Like overtime obviously kind of becomes a little bit of a no contest in the end, but yeah, like just a scary one that the Clippers just got out of scot-free, but kind of didn't teach me anything new or bad or good really necessarily about the team besides just being in
Yeah.
love with Darius Garland and everything about Darius Garland.
No, I think you are right about the categorization of this game, and I think I probably have miscategorized the Mavericks, especially compared to the Milwaukee Bucks. I guess you just do associate the Milwaukee Bucks with just being a good team, but obviously without Giannis Antetokounmpo at the moment, like you said, I think dumpster fire is the word to use.
Yeah, it's just really hard because like obviously there's so many teams that are tanking and so many teams that are doing it
Yeah,
unethically, and I think Dallas is one that's probably done it a little bit ethically, I guess. But
yeah,
like the Sacramento Kings are a dumpster fire. The Jazz are pretty good. Dallas Mavericks are pretty good. The Pelicans are obviously like they've shown against the Clippers, and they're generally showing now they got up to the 11th seed. They're pretty good. The Memphis Grizzlies, bit of a dumpster fire basket case. Flip over to the East. Pacers, pretty good, especially like genuinely good when Halliburton comes back. Nets, probably in the pretty good bracket now. Like really good coach, at least Michael Porter Jr. has been great. I wouldn't necessarily class them as a dumpster fire. Wouldn't necessarily
yeah,
class Washington as a dumpster fire, although I don't necessarily like the recent trades for their timeline. Chicago Bulls dumpster fire, Milwaukee Bucks dumpster fire. So like there's still a few like legit
yeah.
tanking teams in there, but like the Dallas Mavericks are kind of like a team that should tank for their own timeline, but like are just kind of quite good, really.
Yeah, and I think they played a good game in this one. Obviously, at home as well. I think the crowd really got behind them in this one, and I think I'm sort of enjoying the youth and athleticism, particularly like you said, like guys like Cooper Flag
Oh,
provide, and this is a team that have gone through such insane drama over the last year. Like I just couldn't imagine having your franchise player traded away in such ridiculous fashion. But obviously, to like, if I'm just putting myself in like a Mavericks fan's shoes now, and this isn't a Mavs podcast, by the way, but I think it does provide good context to this game. Is that they've sort of recognized like it's the end of the Luka era. We just got to sort of get behind this new era, which is the Cooper Flag era, and obviously he's got tremendous potential. Obviously, completely different player to Luka, and in that he can affect the game in more ways than just putting the ball in the basket. Like you said in this game, the blocks that he had and his effort, intensity, his athleticism, which is all things that are just not associated with Luka Doncic, right? He's just a completely different kind of player. So I think he's sort of really ignited something there. So we've got a lot that they can build on moving forward, and still have like some great NBA role players to back them up. Guys like Najee Marshall, for example, just one of a few that are good players. And maybe this would again probably just came at the wrong time for the Clippers. And I think we kind of said something similar about how the Clippers performed last week, where the games just sort of came at the wrong time. The schedule just caught them off guard a little, and just caught up to them in a moment where they had just players in and out of the lineup. Obviously, Kawhi had come back for this game. I think played pretty well by his standards, and obviously it was a huge Darius Garland game. I think it just really highlighted some of the weaknesses on the Clipper defense, particularly at that center position. Something that's probably been, or the Clippers have sort of papered over the cracks a little, just how good their offense has been. And as you said, they've not been pretty good defensive team, but have done enough to get by. But I think this game was one where the defense was just bad. And that was, yeah, highlighted by defensive rebounding. And there's only so much your offense can do. Like, you can't always just go out and outscore opponents, which feels like that's been the Clippers' strategy, particularly over the, if you look back at the last 10 games, like the Clippers have put up 150 points against Minnesota Timberwolves, right? Like, that kind of momentum is almost like defense in itself, just because the game just, you've got someone like Kawhi coming at you relentlessly, making buckets, Darius Garland, even Benedict Mathurin to an extent. And there, I do think there's something in that around like just the relentless scoring in the NBA that can have that kind of effect. And it is kind of defense in itself, where the team has to feel like they have to go shot for shot with the Clippers. And this is probably one of those games where it was literally shot for shot. The teams were both pretty hot from the field. The Clippers more so in this game, I felt. It's just the Mavs defense was a lot better in terms of slowing the Clippers down. And I think one point you made, particularly about Jordan Miller, that I found interesting, is that Kobe Sanders got a DNP in this one, and he's been pretty good from beyond the arc. And I thought maybe this would have been a game for him, or maybe a slight adjustment that Ty Lue could have made. And I think he has kind of preferred Miller, has a bit more NBA experience, which I understand. Obviously, Kobe Sanders is still a rookie, but I think this season I've been far more impressed with Kobe Sanders than Jordan Miller. Obviously, I've really enjoyed watching Jordan Miller, but I think sometimes in games like these, you do just need like a reliable set of hands to come in, and Kobe Sanders has been that guy, and his like 3-point shooting has been tremendous over the last few games, and definitely like has an impact on the defensive end. Not particularly measurable at this stage of his career, but again, someone who is a safe pair of hands. And I thought that was a strange decision. And I definitely feel like Ty is leaning towards Jordan more in his moments when he's around. So yeah, I think, like you said, so just probably this game come at the wrong time. Credit to the Mavs, they put in a good performance, but I think credit, I guess, to the Clippers for managing to see this one out, because this is easily could have been one that they could have dropped. And I think it took probably a lot of guts and effort to not let the losing streak continue, because they had come into this game on a 4-game losing streak, so probably really wanted to put that to bed as well, and ultimately glad they did. They did do that. But yeah, I'm happy with these kind of wins. I guess I woke up kind of scared, like, wow, like overtime against the Mavs, that's not an exciting game. But to be fair, it was a good game to watch. And the Clippers managed to snap that streak, as I said, and that's the main thing. The next game that the Clippers played was against the Milwaukee Bucks, which you've coined the team that is a dumpster fire. And yes, I think it proved that on the court. It was an absolute dominant display by the Clippers. As I said before, 129-96 win at Intuit Dome. Kawhi Leonard played this one, which I think is positive news in itself, showing that ankle issues maybe not as big as we once feared. I've not really seen any comments on it after he's come back, so seems like he's sort of good to go, and do want to try and see him playing all the games up to the end of the season. And there's a particular record that he probably doesn't have his eye on, but I definitely have my eye on, which we can touch on later, that he definitely has an opportunity to break. And yeah, I thought this was a pretty good one from the Clippers, but I don't want to read too much into it, because you said Milwaukee Bucks, not much of an opponent, and I don't really want to conduct too much analysis. I thought Brook Lopez offensively was quite fun in this game in terms of some of the shots he was making.
Flash
5 or 6 from 3. It's an absolute sniper, and maybe that was like a revenge game that was due. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this game, Josh? And I suppose you probably don't have too much, because I kind of guess what you're going to say is like, it's the Milwaukee Bucks without Giannis, and they are a terrible team, if not probably the worst in the NBA.
I just want to apologize to Brook Lopez. Everything I said about him was wrong. This was the Brook Lopez game. Give him the MVP. No, obviously, it was a nice to see a Brook Lopez revenge game against his old team. I know there was talk. I don't know if it was Giannis who maybe like put this out there in the universe, but there was talk about like people saying they wanted to retire Brook Lopez's jersey with the Milwaukee Bucks. So, fair play. That would be incredible
Yeah,
for Brook. Yeah, like you say, nice to see Kawhi playing this one because we'd kind of talked about on the last one like the idea of not resting Kawhi in games now. Like I know obviously the one back to back we've got left is where we're gonna like really have our eyes on it for like is Kawhi gonna get a night off in as they sort of split that back to back. I'd hope not. Like I really want Kawhi to just be ramping up now. Again, like you say, good that the ankle injury is sort of not a thing. Given what you were saying about Kobe Sanders from the Mavs game and sort of, expecting to see him and maybe more of him in that scenario. Good that he like went off for a big game in this one as well. 8 of 10 from the field, 3 of 5 from three. So I've just been really impressed by Kobe Sanders all season, and also like
yeah,
there's almost like and I mean this by the way in the best possible way because people will take this as like a disrespect, and I don't mean it in a disrespectful way, but there's almost like a Patrick Patterson-ness about Kobe Sanders where like, do you remember they used to say about Patrick Patterson like just add water? Like Kobe
yeah,
Sanders can come in and
yeah,
doesn't mean he's always gonna have a great game. Like Tupac obviously didn't always have great games, but sometimes you just bring Kobe Sanders in and just drop him into like a perfect scenario. And of course, like there was major garbage time in this one, so he got the chance to
yeah,
flex his muscles. I don't actually know if he was one of the ones who played big minutes. Oh yeah, he played the whole 12 minutes of the fourth quarter, so really got a
yeah,
chance to sort of flex his muscles. But even then, like you look at the fourth quarter in isolation, he was 2 of 3 and 2 of 3 from the field, 0 of 1 from three. So that wasn't really where like he got his points. He kind of got his
oh,
points when he was like playing with the main guys. So yeah, majorly impressed by what Kobe brought. I think I said it a couple of podcasts ago that I was kind of looking at him to replace Nico Batum maybe in the lineup. So interesting that in this one, Nico like had a good game against the Dallas Mavericks, had one of those impactful Nico games, but then starts in this one against the Bucks and is kind of at least quite on the offensive end, good few rebounds in there, a couple of steals and stuff, but doesn't give you an awful lot on the offensive end in this one. So it's going to be hard for Ty, I think. Like I completely understand why in theory he would start Jordan Miller over Kobe Sanders because Jordan Miller feels like a more like natural shot creator. Obviously the ability to get to the free throw line, especially in the absence of Benedict Mathurin, although obviously Benedict Mathurin's going to come back into the fold as we talk about the Toronto game. That ability to get to the paint, I think, just collapses defenses and makes things a little bit easier for the Clippers on the perimeter and stuff. So, like in that sense, I do understand the merits of Jordan Miller. I kind of think we're gonna be a little bit in like purgatory of like swapping between Miller and Sanders and Batum. And like I don't know whether it's worth Ty Lue just biting the bullet. And it's not the typical Ty thing to do because Ty kind of just trusts his like seasoned vets, really, doesn't he? Like the guys who he's been to battle with and have been there for him. So like
yeah,
I think he'll play Nicholas Batum until Nicholas Batum retires. But like I wonder whether there's just more value long term in being like Kobe Sanders is my Nicholas Batum. Like that is it. He's similar height. I know he doesn't necessarily do similar things on the floor, but like has some defensive impact. Sometimes has good 3-point shooting nights. A little bit of a little dabble of playmaking in there, especially with 4 assists in this game. And then Jordan Miller is like your if Benedict Mathurin is kind of having an off night, he can still provide things that Benedict Mathurin provides. If Derek
yeah,
Jones Jr. has not necessarily been great around the rim as like your third option maybe around the rim, albeit Garland doesn't get to the rim a ton, but like your third option around the rim, then Jordan Miller can be that guy who can kind of like rise to that side of things as well. So yeah, not like a ton you can analyze in terms of like what this game teaches you, especially from Milwaukee side of things, because I mean you saw it in this one, like Milwaukee are just a complete and utter disaster. It was funny watching that clip that's going around of Kevin Porter Jr. at the moment, who, by the way, like I'm so glad he's off the Clippers for so many reasons, but especially for like the I'm gonna go and beat Bam's 83 out of respect for Kobe, like just yeah, I, the whole reaction to the ban overtaking Kobe and the disrespect, the seeming disrespect it was to Kobe. I'm just not here for. So the more we can beat Kevin Porter Jr.'s Milwaukee Bucks, albeit obviously didn't play in this game, but the more we can hand it to them and to this terrible franchise, the better for me, really.
Yeah, this was a game that I was just expecting the Clippers to win, and I found it interesting, particularly with the rotation. And I think we should probably talk about this when we do like a play-in preview or like sort of postseason preview with the Clippers, because we know they're definitely going to be there no matter what. Is like what the rotation looks like, and like ultimately, like Tito's always said he's going to run with a nine-man rotation, and I really doubt that gets extended. And currently, they are pretty much, there's probably 10 guys on the roster that could argue like they're in that. So like, who's the guy that gets left out? And I can't really put my finger on it right now. And I do think Kobe Sanders is ahead of Jordan Miller in that pecking order. And it's to your point, really. And it is like the just add water. And I think he could really benefit from getting some of that playoff experience. And whilst I think it would probably be pretty unfortunate for Jordan Miller to miss out, um, yeah, this is a discussion for another time, but like Nicholas Batum, I think just having his experience around, particularly like his playoff experience, he's just another one of those guys that you can rely on and sometimes can win you like playoff games just by providing his consistency, his defense, his shot scoring, the flexibility he gives you in your lineup in terms of like going small, etc. So it's going to be interesting, and we should definitely talk about like the playoff rotation and what that looks like going forward. Because right now, there is definitely 10 guys, and even in this game, like the amount of minutes that was shared, obviously Benedict Mathurin was out in this game. Pretty much everyone touched the floor and contributed, but it was one of those where because it is the Bucks, you can just share the minutes out. And yeah, just a routine win for the Clippers. I think if they drop this one, there would be significant alarm bells ringing because there's not really anyone on that roster who should be causing the Clippers any problem. And I think on the night it was actually Gary Trent Jr. Like, and if that's the guy who's getting the most points for your team, like, yeah, they're obviously in a very bad position. And I guess fortunately enough for the Clippers, they've got another game against them coming up. So hopefully, and without cursing anything, is another one in the win column for the Clippers, which yeah, we don't have to analyze too much because just an absolute dominant display for the Clippers, a 46-point lead at one point in the game. The Bucks only took the lead once, sort of early in the first. So yeah, I'm keen to move on to this next one because this was the most recent game from the Clippers against the Toronto Raptors, a team who've been pretty good this season, and I think as of late have maybe slowed down a touch, but have one of the better defenses in the league. And obviously Clippers far better on the offensive side. Obviously, as you mentioned, I think top 10 in offense this year. So it was always going to be a test. And I think fortunately enough had everybody available. I think bar Jordan Miller in this game, who was out with a back injury, which is obviously a bit disappointing given how he's been playing as of recently. But the Clippers had sort of their big three in terms of Kawhi, Darius Garland, and Benedict Mathurin available for this game. And yeah, it was just a real efficient home blowout win, where the Raptors just didn't really cause the Clippers any trouble in this game. And I thought, like, credit to the Clippers, and I think especially on the defensive side, like, looked great. I think the Raptors probably going through a little bit of a weird period at the moment where they've sort of lost that consistency, probably at the wrong time for their season. But the Clippers just had too much for them. And I think it was probably another one of those where just because the Clippers were just so efficient offensively, like, it didn't matter what Toronto really did and what they threw at Kawhi and what they threw at Darius Garland. Like, those two just had a hell of a night. And even Benedict Mathurin, I thought was great in this game. And just like his usual of just getting to the line and like being aggressive and doesn't always have to be, or doesn't have to mirror sort of the efficiency in terms of scoring as Darius Garland and Kawhi. I think he just provides something a little bit different and gives the Clippers those kind of opportunities where he is aggressive and can get to the line and can sort of just force things and just yeah be play aggressively. So I thought he looked good. Obviously, he'd been out for a number of games, so him coming in and having that kind of performance was really exciting. But yeah, Darius Garland was, I think, the star of the game for me. That shot from the logo,
Oh,
yeah, I'm
good.
getting real excited. His 3-point shooting since he's joined the Clippers is absolutely outrageous. And I had pulled a little stat on Darius Garland, if I can find it. So in the month of March, with a minimum of 53-point attempts, Darius Garland currently leading the league for best 3-point percentage. 51.2% is absolutely insane.
Love
He's
it.
on an absolute tear. And yeah, long may it continue because it's really fun. And obviously, like we got used to that with James Harden in terms of that level of efficiency. And obviously, some of his shot making has just been absolutely ridiculous, particularly as I said, from beyond the arc and the logo threes as well. That's something we're used to with James, right? So, yeah, for him to have that, but also contribute on the sort of yeah, sort of playmaking side as well. 6 assists. I think he had 11 in the previous game. Just really, really fun and really fun win against a competitive team, which was great to see because the Clippers really haven't had that test probably since the Spurs and obviously weren't fully fit for that game. So, yeah, were you excited, as excited as I was for this, Josh? And what were your thoughts on Darius Garland's performance? Because he's just been on an absolute tear recently and it just seems like there's no slowing down. And I think the real thing I take away from that is like his foot is sort of not impacting him so much, and like he's looking healthy and he's obviously performing to go with it.
Yeah, I'm just like loving the Darius Garland experience so much. I kind of alluded to it before, really, but like how much he's enjoying being a Clipper, how much it looks like he's just playing freely, and I mean that in like a mental sense. I saw a tweet from Justin Russo, which actually made me a bit depressed because we've had a very, very long winter in the UK, haven't we, James? So,
Yes.
especially with how our football teams played throughout the winter, that definitely didn't help either. But like they would you're basically saying like it's mad the difference that the sunshine makes, and like I think Darius Garland maybe had like a quote or something along those lines to say like
Yeah.
Darius Garland is just waking up to the sunshine in LA every day now compared to what the weather is like in Cleveland most of the time. So
Yeah.
like I imagine that is making a difference. If you see his latest Instagram post, it looks like he is enjoying life in LA. That was the as well as the shot at the end of the third quarter with the like kiss to the crowd. I really enjoyed. I don't know if you've seen this on like the highlights, the alley oop where he's like dancing as a I can't remember who finished it to be honest. I think it was maybe John Collins. But like he throws the rebound and then he's just like dancing on the sideline as throws the alley oop, sorry, and he's dancing on the sideline as the alley oop goes up. It was just in fact it might have been Isaiah Jackson actually that got on the end
Mhm.
of that alley oop. So that was just another very like funny highlight. It's just so enjoyable to watch in all senses. And one of the things that we were saying a lot at the start of the season is how much we missed Norman Powell's energy. I was worried when James Harden left how much we'd miss like the playmaking chops, the volume shooting of James, the ability to just kind of like carry a team out of a slump, especially if Kawhi goes a little bit quiet from three or just kind of like has a moment in the game where he's quiet. Darius Garland is bringing so many of those things that James Harden brought, maybe not to the same like elite level in the sense like I think James Harden was a floor raiser for the Clippers. I think Darius Garland is like a ceiling raiser for the Clippers, and that has been so clear from the Darius Garland experience so far, and just the vibes that he's bringing. Like as a fan, you can't hate that for a second. And then like I guess the other person you kind of mentioned there that you'd give credit to is Benedict Mathurin, like coming back into this one fresh off the injury. And again, I referenced the two guys that we maybe thought we would miss, and obviously Ivica Zubac is the one that's like not really been replaced in a sense, but Benedict Mathurin has replaced a lot of what Norm does, like not the volume shooting from three, but the ability to get to the free throw line, the ability to get to the basket. I mean, 6 assists in this one even is like pretty impressive and something that I don't know if it'll be regular, but if every now and then he can chip in with that many assists, I don't see that being a bad thing at all. There was a really
No.
nice little play between him and Isaiah Jackson at one point as well. In fact, a couple of times him and Isaiah Jackson found each other in sort of nice spaces for that little, ex-Pacers link up. So, just so much to be excited about following the Clippers right now, like wherever this season goes, really. And like, and I mean that even in the sense of like if the Clippers flamed out in the play, and like I'd be sad as a Clippers fan, I'd be disappointed because I think there is a chance that the Clippers, can and probably should make the playoffs through the play-in. But even then, like I will go out of the play in and be like, oh, well, bit sad, bit disappointed. But I'm so looking forward to watching Clippers basketball again already next season because of all these like little pieces the Clippers have been able to pick up. So I guess if we are doing any apologies on the show, like I'll double down on my apology to Lawrence Frank that I made a couple of episodes ago. Because like I still have my question marks about Lawrence Frank, and I definitely still have question marks
Yeah,
about the way the whole CP thing was dealt with and stuff. As much as I can acknowledge, like there are definitely two sides to that, and I know that CP is a dick. So like, there is definitely also that side to it, but I still think there's like better ways of going about your business and not allowing
yeah,
ex players like DeMarcus Cousins and stuff to then start jumping in, and even Lou Will to an extent, who was like a very respected ex Clipper to kind of jump in and like add salt to the wound or add insult to injury in that sense for us as Clippers fans. So this was just one of those games. Like Toronto are a strange team. The East is so fun, by the way. Like their playing picture. I don't know if you've looked at like the East standings, James, but
it's
there's like
mental.
there's two games separating the Atlanta Hawks who have got up to fifth, which by the way is incredible considering how they like traded away Trade Young for next to nothing. Although actually that's disrespectful to CJ McCollum. Shout out to CJ. But then like the Miami Heat down in 10th, yeah, just two games between 5th and 10th is incredible. And the Toronto Raptors find themselves like genuinely right in the thick of that because Charlotte continue to rise. All the other teams are kind of like similar to Toronto in the sense that it doesn't feel like they can get above like a 500 win pace. But like the East is so fun to watch, but more because I guess it kind of feels a bit like maybe a bum fight is harsh because like there's teams with genuinely good records there. Toronto's record is genuinely good, but none of those teams feel like they will beat the home court advantage teams. Like you could see the eastern side of the playoffs being like all chalk from four upwards. Whereas obviously I'd like to think from our side of things in the West that the Clippers can maybe cause a little upset or two in there, which may be the most optimistic thing I've ever said on this podcast, considering that it seems our likely opponents are either the San Antonio Spurs or the OKC Thunder. But fuck it, we're in a good mood because the Clippers are winning, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. We're in a great mood, and this game was one of those that has really put me in a good mood. One of my good friends is a Raptors fan, and I think we've done the season sweep on the Raptors, so that makes me feel absolutely fantastic as well. So yeah, I think you made some great points in there, to be honest. And I wanted to pick on like a few different players who were, I think, had really interesting games for me. And I think Brook Lopez, and obviously we touched on that Mavs game where, you know, the amount of offensive rebounds was kind of inexcusable. I thought the bigs, particularly over the last two games, obviously I do want to obviously caveat the Bucks game is obviously nothing to look at, but some of the shot making from Brook Lopez in this game, obviously it was only the 14 points, but that's still kind of routine for Brook Lopez this season. Like he's kind of surprised me on the offensive end. Obviously, I've known him to be like a good defender, and it seems like he's probably been the better like offensive player this season than he has like a defender, and maybe that's just due to age. But I've just been absolutely like surprised by his consistency in terms of his performance. And it's not just like the marksman ability of his 3-point shooting, which is obviously different for the Clippers. I don't think the Clippers have had a big guy who can shoot threes since Serge Ibaka. Really, like I can't really think of anyone else who we've had that sort of been at that level and offered that kind of dynamism in the lineup in terms of shot making. It's also like he was shooting stuff off the dribble, which like I'm like come on, man, like you are at his age to be able to do that and be making shots. Yeah, he had a pretty fun game and really interested to see how he plays in the postseason. I think he's going to be quite important, particularly with his experience. And I think we touched on his name maybe a couple pods ago, but Isaiah Jackson, I think just continuing to be like steady, and that's all you can really ask for. And obviously to give up Zoo, who was obviously the starting center, where you had Brook Lopez backing him up, for those two to kind of like keep the ship steady without Zoo and his like defensive presence has been really really great to see. Isaiah Jackson, I think, yeah, like I said, just going under the radar. He's like I think since he's joined the Clippers, shooting 70% on twos, 76% on twos and 4.3 total steals and blocks per 75. So he's just been like a steady pair of hands, and in this game was that again. And yeah, just like quite like decently pleased with the big men, because I think it is noted as like one of the weaknesses, or probably the weakness in the Clippers roster now, that obviously they have given away Zoo, who's obviously such like a presence on the team. And like the Clippers never really had to worry about that spot other than like the backup big, right? And I thought Brook Lopez probably wasn't great in that backup big role, and has like I think like I've seen an uptick in his performances since Zoo has left. So I thought he had a pretty good game. And yeah, just Darius Garland, man, just really enjoying, as you said, enjoying the Darius Garland experience. Kawhi Leonard just like continuing to just tick on. I don't think this was like one of his like crazy games, but just continuing to like if Kawhi can continue to score 20 plus, like he's just on one this season. And I did want to kind of like wrap up this segment by like talking about him a bit more, because I'm not sure if you've seen Josh, but the great Law Murray has put out some quite like interesting reporting on Kawhi this afternoon, particularly on like his impact on the team. And I find that really interesting because I think if you go back like a few weeks, he'd obviously come out and said what he said about like the group's like championship aspirations and how he thinks like that window is closed. And there's also been like murmurs around like the Clippers were potentially, or they were getting receiving calls about him, and like his future was uncertain. But there's really interesting reporting coming out of Law Murray this afternoon, talking about how he worked with Benedict Mathurin, particularly in the Orlando Magic game. I think it was Mathurin missed the game-winning shot, if you can remember that one. And it was reported that he sort of told Mathurin, like, "You're good. Like, this is part of your growth." It was the quote that Law shared on that one. And there's a few other bits. I think Benedict Mathurin had some quotes about Kawhi, saying like how good it is to have him on the team, and how like he's been so motivated by the group, and obviously like considering the changes that have happened, just seeing like how he works, how hard he works. And I think like he's not the only guy to come out. I think Nicholas Batum just did a pod. I think it was the old man the three pod he's on. That's just come out today as well, and he was talking about Kawhi and how he thinks this is like the best Kawhi he's seen, but like he's not surprised, or he doesn't think there's like anything different about Kawhi this year. It's just like the hard work just continuing to pay off, and like he's just healthy. Because he said like he's one of the hardest working people he knows. I think Mathurin in that statement to Lomari said that he's an all defensive player this year. Even Kobe Sanders, I think, in that piece, had mentioned that Kawhi Leonard has been seen as a leader to the young guys and has instilled confidence in them. And I think this is something that a lot of like the figureheads in NBA media have sort of questioned at Kawhi. Is like, can he be that leader? And maybe like just because obviously he hasn't delivered a championship to LA, and he like his character and the fact that he is like a quieter guy, like he's Kawhi, right? Like we all know the perception of him. But I think it's great to see like some of the guys come out and saying this about him. And I think does go to show potentially the impact he's had, not just on like his own personal performances, but how he is like really become a leader in this group. And I personally think that it's been great to see. And I'd been sort of reading them before we got on. And I think one of the really important bits that come out of that, Josh, I wanted to share with you, is that Law says that he's motivated to win both for his team and for himself. And there's a level of pride that Leonard's taken. The level of pride he's taken this season is unique, and it's allowing him to show a more assertive side of himself while having fun doing it. And I think that's like something I've seen. Like I don't even need to like be behind the scenes. Like it's just clear, like the way he's playing, like he's just enjoying his basketball. And it's been fantastic to see. Before I get your thoughts, I did want to share like a real quick stat on Kawhi. That's going to be interesting to like keep track of going forward. So I think tonight, obviously, we're playing the Pacers, so he can join quite like an exclusive group of players tonight. So it's 49 consecutive 20-point games, and if he was to get another 20 plus point game tonight, he'd become the 14th player in NBA history to reach 50 and the first to do so age 30 or older, and just goes to show like the kind of streak that he's having. He's averaging 29.2 points during this streak that began on November 28th. And interestingly enough, he's I think just in the last game against Toronto, he surpassed his record points total for the Clippers, 1,614 points this season. Previous season he had 1,613. His best ever season in terms of point scoring is Spurs 16-17, which was 1,888. So he's around 274 off that total. He's got 9 games left. He needs to average 30.4 over that time. And I guess, yeah, obviously just for context, since December 20th, he's averaged 29.8. So it's not out of the realm of possibility he could have his best ever points season. I think it's leaning unlikely. I'll probably give it maybe like a 20% chance. But hey, if Kawhi gets wind of this, I mean, I don't know if this is like a big thing for him, but I wouldn't be shocked if he just goes on to like smash the record because he's just playing crazy right now. And yeah, I really enjoyed those quotes. But yeah, Josh, I don't think you actually heard any or seen any of those quotes from Law in his article today. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on it and like how that marries up with what you've been seeing on the court from Kawhi.
I've thought of a slogan for what we can say about Kawhi Leonard off the back of those quotes, and it's "Happy Kawhi, happy life" is what I'm gonna go with. Like
That's brilliant.
I
That's
feel like
brilliant.
from where we came from, where me and you were kind of like dissecting that quote, where Kawhi was like, you know, we're not trying to contend, or I can't actually remember like the exact
Yeah,
wording of it now because it feels like so far away from that point. We feel so far away from that
yeah,
point. I think like the trouble is with somebody who is like Kawhi and is so like straight shooter down the barrel kind of thing, is that he probably also sees the world a little bit in that way as well. So like if you take away his James Harden and his Ivica Zubac and his Norman Powell even from the season before, he probably is just going to feel a little bit worse about the team, or like his uncertainty is going to come across as like being a bit down on the team. And I think what he's seen from like, you know, Matherin and Garland, etc. so far has probably really encouraged him. And even like from, you know, Jordan Miller and Kobe Sanders and how they've grown this season, I imagine that's really encouraged him. And like this team has kind of like allowed Kawhi to be Kawhi in a way that like we've probably not seen since the Raptors like playoff run. And I say that because like even in the regular season for the Raptors that season, he wasn't like this great. I don't know if there's ever been a regular season where like offensively Kawhi has been this great. He was great so many times defensively for the Spurs, but like he didn't really have the chance to be unlocked in the way that he is now. And I think he's kind of like for one embracing that role, embracing the role to be a leader a little bit as well, embracing like having young guys around him that he can impart some wisdom onto, but also like build off their energy in game as well. Like, you know, not necessarily being on a team where like if he feels like he's breaking down in overtime, or like if it's a playoff game that's been so dogged, like obviously we've not had experience, we've not like had a playoff experience with this team yet, but you can kind of
yeah.
imagine from games we've seen in the past with, you know, the older Clippers team in the playoffs, like we've watched some fourth quarters of pretty crucial games for the Clippers and be like, oh, this team are just beat, like this team are tired, there's no way they're gonna get back into this. I don't know if you'll see that from this Clippers team really. Like I don't know if they will lie down in the way that, you know, maybe that Clippers team did in the past. And I think that's something that can like continue to unlock Kawhi, because obviously like he plays the game at his own pace. He can just kind of get hot on a whim really. I feel like still. So really excited that Kawhi is like playing this well, mainly excited that he's enjoying it this much as well, because I'm not sure he even anticipated that he would enjoy it this much. And yeah, happy Kawhi, happy life.
That might need to be the title of the pod, Josh. And I think we need to take that slogan forward. I think somehow we need to get that over to Brian Seaman as well, because I know he loves the little slogans, the little quotes. That's a good one. And yeah, I think right now it is a happy life for Clipper fans, everybody. And when Kawhi is happy, we're all happy, right? And when he's healthy, we're all happy as well. So yeah, I mean, hats off to Kawhi. He's just been absolutely unbelievable. Just absolutely loved every minute of it. I haven't seen him play this well for a long time, and it may even be like the best basketball I've seen him play since he's joined the Clippers, and I really hope he does make that history tonight, which I can't see why he won't. It's the Clippers playing Indiana Pacers tonight. He is due to play, which is great news. I think it's just Jordan Miller who is questionable tonight. And obviously we know what the Pacers are like these days. I think that should be a breeze for him to get that 20-point streak. And yeah, excited to see more basketball, Josh, because I might have to do it again. I might have to do it again. And this week has changed my mind, has changed my outlook a lot. I think I'm saying it again, Josh. I think the Clippers are going unbeaten
Wait.
until we next record. The Clippers have 4 games. As I said, Pacers tonight. And they're fairly spaced out. And I think that's what makes me feel more optimistic and confident. The first two, I think, are pretty almost certain wins. Pacers, again, if they've got Pascal Siakam, which I don't know if they do, haven't checked, can't completely write them off. They've got dumpster fire Milwaukee Bucks on Sunday. It's an early game. It's probably the only thing that goes against the Clippers. They don't really enjoy that, but we do, and that's obviously a great tip of time for UK fans. So make sure you tune in, and hopefully it's a great performance and one that you can, might only need to watch 3 quarters in that one. But then they go back home to Intuit Dome on Tuesday. This is a massive game. Portland Trailblazers. A win here could really put them in position to clinch the eighth. They're also due to play them again on the 10th of April. So that is a huge game, and it's followed up by another massive game. And I think I've said this the last few times we played the Spurs, since we had that first really good performance against them. I believe it was without Darius Garland. We really took it to the Spurs, and we dropped the game, right? And then where we played really bad, or had the bad week recently, we played the Spurs again. I believe we were also undermanned in that game. But this one I feel great about because it's fairly spaced out from the Portland Trailblazers game. I had just looked quickly. This is a back-to-back, second night of a back-to-back for the San Antonio Spurs. And I think the Clippers do it. And this could be like a first-round preview because I think the Clippers are getting to that point where, they're getting close to the Suns. Who knows? It's not out of the realm of possibility they catch them up. I personally don't think they do. I think they play the Suns in the play-in and then get the opportunity to play the Spurs in the first round. But I think they cause a little bit of an upset here, and I think fingers crossed, no more injuries this week. I think again, all these assumptions are based on the team being fit and healthy, but I think the game's being spaced out, lining up when they do. I can see the Clippers putting a bit of a run together here. Keen to get your thoughts, Josh, on the next week. And obviously, this is assuming we're calling same time next week on a Friday. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's Good Friday for us in the UK next week.
Yeah,
I'm happy for us to say it will be a Good Friday for the Clippers, at least our
yeah,
time. Um, yeah, I'm trying really hard to be like I think the Clippers will go 3-0 before that Spurs game. I'm so
yeah.
confident about that. Um, the Spurs do just like the Spurs do worry me. And I think I've said it before, like that those first round matchups. And I think I said it when the Spurs were like 6 games behind the OKC Thunder, by the way. I was like, I'd rather play the Thunder in the first round because I think there's a genuine chance that like we could smack the Thunder in the mouth harder than we could smack the San Antonio Spurs. I just think Wemby is like so freakish and everything around Wemby works so well. And like it's
Hmm.
young and hungry and energetic in a way that I think the Clippers just don't deal very well with. And like I know OKC is still kind of like young, hungry, and energetic, but it's like not the level of athleticism or like run you off the floor as the San Antonio Spurs is. Um, there's nothing as freakish as Wemby is. Like it's basically just can you defend Shea without like the freakiest thing is Shea's whistle basically. So can you defend Shea without getting called for like phantom fouls all over the place? As I feel like I just keep seeing clips of the Boston Celtics struggling to do it at the moment through no fault of their own because like some of the calls that Shea is getting, and we're Shea lovers on this podcast of course, like because he's a former Clipper, but like I love Shea to bits, but the whistle thing is just uber frustrating at this stage, and like I think fair play that he does play into it a little bit, and especially like the way he talks about it in the press. So I think I'm like targeting the OKC matchup maybe more so than the Spurs matchup. I actually
Going,
think we probably will catch the Phoenix Suns though. So that's where like if I'm taking away a little bit to say that like I don't know if we'll beat the Spurs next week and I don't know if I want them in the playoffs. Like I think 3 games is not insurmountable and the Suns are like just strange in that like it feels like um guys keep getting injured and there's just like they're not really like I think I said this maybe on the last pod like this is the kind of point of the season now where you want to like really sharpen up towards the playoffs and like really hone in and
Mhm.
the Raptors as we mentioned before like not necessarily doing that. The Suns are not necessarily doing that either. Like they're not, at least not like being allowed the chance to. And I feel a little bit sorry for Jordan Knott because like he's had a great first season as their head coach.
Yeah,
And I just think things are like happening in a less than ideal way for them. And I could kind of see that the Clippers, like despite last week, are honing in a little bit and will definitely get the chance to like hone in from now. And I'm not sure the Suns will be afforded that chance really. Like I think Portland and the Clippers can put pressure on each other in a way that just brings Phoenix suddenly down to like our level. So I'm gonna like make the prediction that we'll be 3-1 next week, which if that seemed pessimistic, I'm gonna make the prediction that the Clippers finish as the seventh seed eventually. So just bear with me because they're like I'll feed you with one pessimistic hand here, but then I'll bring some optimistic stuff in as well.
I like it. I like the optimism, and I can definitely see it as well. Um, yeah, the Phoenix Suns are sort of there for the taking, and the Clippers are just playing great basketball. Obviously, if it wasn't for that like bad week, they could have maybe been there now. Like they could have maybe been the seventh now. So it's definitely in reach. Obviously, just the 9 games remaining. I think maybe what is potentially interesting about that Spurs game, and I was thinking about this a second ago, was how how do the Spurs want to finish the season? Because I know we do often see some of like these conference leading teams maybe start to slow down and like save guys and make sure like there's no injuries before they get to the playoffs because they want to go on a really important run. They probably, well, they'll definitely have second lockdown at least, but it's whether they've got their eyes on Thunder because that could really go like down to the last couple games, right? They're only 2 games behind the Thunder, and there might be that incentive like, come on, like let's just go win the Western Conference. I don't really know what that does for them, but that could be like something they've got their eye on. But it's probably like similar to the Clippers where there might be like a level of hesitancy about not going too hard and like managing guys like Wemby and the rest of them. But obviously this is a young team. There's not really much injury problems in that squad. So yeah, I'm interested to see what kind of Spurs the Clippers face. Obviously said it's the second night of a back-to-back. Whether they'll start thinking about ramping players down and get ready for the postseason, I'm not sure. I just know from what we've seen against the last 2 matchups, whilst I think on paper the Spurs will offer so many different headaches to the Clippers entirely, particularly in the playoffs if that ends up being their opponent. I think I've seen enough from the last couple of games that could an upset could happen there, and I'm backing it this time. I think third time lucky. Let's go get a win against the Spurs, especially at home. That'll be a nice one to sort of end off a great couple of weeks for the Clippers. And yeah, probably unlikely we'll record on Good Friday. I guess we'll have to see, but I think we'll definitely be unbeaten next time we record, Josh. And yeah, just I guess the swings and roundabouts of the NBA, right? Like thinking about last week and like how depressing that was, and obviously the 2 games dropped to the Pelicans to coming now and snapping that losing streak and feeling optimistic about the Clippers again. And I think that's how we felt last week that this would just come back round. And I think yeah, lot to feel excited about. I'm looking forward to tonight's game. I'll probably see if I can catch it. It's 11 p.m. tip off, and then as I said, Sunday against the Bucks. It's another early one. I think probably be about an 8 o'clock tip off, if not earlier. So looking forward to them. Good news for us UK Clipper fans. We always do like those early tips, even if the Clips don't ever show up for them. But yeah, again, really enjoyed this episode, Josh. Excited to see where the next few weeks takes us. I really want to start thinking about the postseason. I think when things get a bit clearer, I'd love to sit down and go through what we think the rotation is going to be, what our chances are in this postseason era for the Clippers, because anything is possible, and it's going to be a very difficult first round, as you mentioned. But yeah, thanks again, Josh. Thanks again for coming on. Remind the people where they can find all of your amazing work.
Yeah, I'm at jsexton24 across all socials. I don't tweet about the Clippers as much these days. I promise that is going to change when the playoffs comes around because I'm going to make sure that I like stay up for more of those games. I've been watching them a bit more like sporadically these days because I used to basically watch them in the morning before work, but I'm no longer a full-time worker, so it tends to be a bit more like of a random pattern in the day. So Clippers content will be coming back on my socials. You'll still see clips of this show on there. Make sure you follow up Clippers UK as well because you'll see mine and James's faces, but also some cool stats from James. I presume particularly as the playoffs sort of
Yeah,
get started as well, hoping that the Clippers are there or at the very least the play-in, and just so much to be excited about for the Clippers in the future, isn't there? Looking forward to always chopping it up with James on here, discussing that and sort of charting this journey. It's been fun so far and will continue to be so.
absolutely, mate. Yeah, really enjoyed this one, as I said, and thanks for supporting as always. Thanks everyone for listening and watching. I'm going to end this pod in a different way because I really enjoyed what you said on this podcast, Josh. Happy Kawhi, happy life.